Hello, this is Patricia from patriciafenty.com, and today I have a tutorial on how to crochet this really cute little pouch using granny square motifs. And in the tutorial, I'm not showing you this actual granny square pattern. I do have a link for that tutorial. You can use any motif that you like. You just need two of them. But what I'll do is I'll show you how to join them together and turn it into this really cute little pouch. And you can open and close it with this little drawstring. And it's just super, super cute. So let's get started. Now what you'll need is two granny square motifs, and you can use any pattern design that you like, so long as you have your final round using the clusters of 3 double crochets and the 2 clusters in the corners. So any pattern that you like. This is the color wheel granny square pattern that I'm using, and I have a tutorial for that. I'll put that in the description box below, and that tutorial will tell you all the colors, and I'll put a little link in the box up here. So you can go there to get the pattern for this, or use any pattern that you like. So then you can pull out 2 extra colors out of your color combination, and then you'll need a bead, like a wooden bead. These are just little plastic beads, but you need a fairly big hole, a fairly big opening, because we're going to put the drawstring through that. There's a darning needle, and I'm using a 4mm or G6 crochet hook and some scissors. Now we're going to take each square, and you want to choose the one that you would want as your front one. I'm going to pick the blue one. The bag is reversible, but if you want a side to be the front, you can pick that. And then with your fastening off knots at the top, this will be the opening to the pouch. So you can keep your knots up there, and then you'll bring wrong sides together. So this is the top of your bag. So turning your bag over to the side here, and we're going to crochet around these 3 sides with a single crochet. So start with a slip knot, and if you're new to crochet, I do have my beginner crochet series, and there'll be a link for that below as well. So going into this chain 2 space, you'll go into the first chain of the chain 2, going into the top loop only, and then on this motif, you'll pick up the first chain of the chain 2 space, but coming in from the back of the motif and just picking up the top loop only. And you'll join on with a single crochet. So grab your yarn from behind, flip your tail over, you'll have 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that's a single crochet. And then you'll pick up the top loop of the second chain of that corner, and then the top loop of the second chain of the corner on the other motif coming in from the back, and you'll do a single crochet. So you're going to single crochet into the top loop of each motif, of each stitch of each motif, going all the way along, just picking up that top loop only, and you can flip it over to make sure you're getting the right stitch there. And if your stitches are lined up properly, as you come to your chain 1 space, you'll have your chain 1 and your chain 1 on that side. And so then you'll just be picking up the top loop of the chain stitches as well. You're not going into the chain 1 space. So carry on and single crochet into the top loop of each stitch, and we get to the corner. I'll show you what we'll do to get around the corner. Now as you come up to the corner, you'll have your chain 2 space. So you go into the top loop of the first chain and do 2 single crochets into that same stitch. And then go into the next chain and just picking up the top loop, always staying in the top loop, and there's the other one, and do 2 single crochets into that same chain. So that just helps you to get around the corner without it pulling. And so you just carry on doing your single crochet into the top loop of each stitch all the way around and working that other corner in the same way, and I'll see you at the end of the 3rd side. All right, so now you've crocheted around the 3 sides and joined the 2 squares together. So coming up into this corner here, what you're going to do is you'll do a single crochet into that first chain of the chain 2 space. You're not going into the second chain. What you're going to do is you're going to slip stitch into the chain 1 space of the front motif, just like that. Then you'll chain 3, and that counts as your first double crochet. And now we're going to start to crochet around the top with clusters of 3 double crochets. So we'll do 2 double crochets into that chain 2 space to complete that first cluster, and then chain 1, and then do a set of 3 double crochets into the next chain 1 space, and then a chain 1. Then you're just going to work a set of 3 double crochets into every chain 1 space with a chain 1 in between. And when you get to the side here, you work a cluster into this chain 2 space, chain 1, and another cluster into this space here. And carry on all the way around. And I'll see you at the end. Now coming to the end of this round, I've just done my last cluster and chain 1 into that chain 2 space, and you'll do a slip stitch into the 3rd chain of that beginning chain 3, and I'd like to pick up 2 loops of that chain and do a slip stitch. And now you're going to slip stitch over to this space here, so a little hard to see here, so just slip stitch into the next stitch, and then slip stitch into that stitch, and then slip stitch into the chain 1 space. And that gets you over to that space to work your cluster. So then you'll do a chain 3 and do 2 double crochets into that chain 1 space, and then chain 1, and then carry on with a set of 3 double crochets, chain 1 in each chain 1 space. So go ahead and do that and work your way all the way around, and I'll see you at the end of this round. All right, so coming to the end of round 2, I've done my last set of 3 double crochets, chain 1, and we'll join this round into the 3rd chain of the beginning chain 3 with a slip stitch. Oops, it's a little stuck there. There we go. And just do a slip stitch to join that round. Now for round 3, you're going to chain 3, and we're just going to do a double crochet into each stitch all the way around. And for this double crochet, you can go under both loops of each stitch. So double crochet into both loops of each stitch in going all the way around, and when you get to the chain 1 space, you can either pick up the 2 stitches of the chain, or you can work into the chain 1 space. That's totally up to you. So double crochet in every stitch all the way around, and I'll see you at the end. Now coming to the end of round 3, we're going to fasten off this color, and I'm going to do this with the invisible stitch. So cut your tail, put the tail through, and the reason for this is because we're going to do another round of crochet, and I don't want to be crocheting into a knot. So to do that, you'll go up 3 stitches, and then going into the 4th stitch, bring your needle in from behind, going under both loops, and then sort of lay that stitch on top of that chain 3 stitch, and going back into that stitch that you came out of, you go back down in between the V of that stitch, and there's a little bump at the back. It's a little bit hard to see, but you want to pick up that bump as well and bring the thread through there. And then you just lay that stitch on top of that 3rd chain of the chain 3, and you have a nice even stitch there. And so then you can just darn in this tail end Just fasten that off, and there you won't be stitching into a knot. Now we're going to do one final round, and I'm using this light purple for this. And I'm going to join on into the back. You can join on anywhere you like into this last row of double crochet. So create a slip knot, put that on your hook, and then going under 2 loops of any stitch of this last round, whoops, with your tail to the right, you'll join on with a single crochet. So flip your tail over and do a single crochet. Then you'll do another single crochet into that same stitch, and then you'll do 2 single crochets into each stitch all the way around, and that's what's going to give you that nice little curly top. So 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around, and I'll see you at the end. All right, so coming to the end of this round, you can fasten off with a slip stitch if you like, but I'm going to use the same invisible stitch because it's a nice way to finish your last round of work. So cutting your tail, and then here we'll go into the second, not this first stitch, but into the second stitch. Bring the needle in from behind, going under 2 loops of that stitch, and then you kind of lay that on top of the other stitch, and then coming back down into the stitch that your yarn is coming out of in the V between those 2 top stitches, and picking up that back bump as well. And there you go, and that creates a nice invisible finish. So then you can just darn in your tail ends, and any other tails that you have, go ahead and darn those in. And next we're going to make the drawstring that will close the bag. So now what we're going to do is we're going to make a long chain that will be double the length of this, plus about a 2-inch tail on each side. So this length plus 2, and then double it. So you'll just do a simple chain stitch. So go ahead and make that chain as long as you need to for this width, plus 2 inches, and double that. All right, so here we go. And then you're going to start in from this side here. You're going to go into the second row, and you'll have this first opening here, and you go underneath that cluster, and then you'll weave in under and over each cluster, working your way all the way around, and just weaving it in like that, and pull the tail out. And once you get to this side, you'll have that cluster there. And then you just want to even the chain out, your drawstring. Make that nice and even. And then what you can do is you can take your bead and take the needle and thread the tail of your chain onto that, just so it's easier to go through the bead with that, and feed that onto the chain there, and then take the next tail end, and then just sort of pull the chain over so you have lots of room to put the needle in and thread that through. And then you want to even up your tail ends here and just make a simple knot. And work the knot down to the end there. And then you can cut these off, or you could string some beads on to that as well. That would look really cute. And just even this out. And there we go. And then all you do is pull your pouch close and pull the bead up, and that's nice and secure. So I'm just going to zoom the camera out here. Now look at how cute that is. and it's reversible if you've used two different color squares, and so it goes both ways. And the reason why I said to pick a side, because this stitch looks a little bit different along the back, but it really doesn't matter. And then if you like, you could make a little lining for this pouch, and I do have a tutorial on how to hand stitch a lining, and I'll put a link to that below. And what I would do is I would make the lining go up to here and then fit it inside the bag, and I would sew the top of the lining across here and then have the drawstring just as it is. So there you go. Isn't that just the cutest little pouch? So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more creative and inspiring videos. We'll see you next time.